Bryce Young is still not the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. That wasn't a dream yesterday. That wasn't some kind of nightmare. You actually heard it. He was actually benched. Today, it's about moving forward. Today, it's about figuring out what the heck the Panthers are going to do now. I use the analogy, not I, everyone uses the analogy of quarterbacks and teams, quarterbacks and coaches. It's like a marriage, right? When you're a rookie, when you're a top pick, it's probably more of like the engaged stage. You're not quite married yet, right? You've maybe moved in together. You've done that sort of thing, but, there's still some time to get out.
Okay.
You haven't quite signed the $250 million deal, which is the marriage, right?
Oh.
The Packers and Jordan Love, they're in it for the long haul. The Bengals and Burrow, they're in it for the long haul. The Panthers just broke up with their quarterback yesterday. And like any breakup, first 24 hours, it's emotion. Did I do the right thing? Oh my gosh, how big of a decision? Is it a weight off my chest? Oh no, how do they feel? What do our friends think? All this. Then there's going to be a time in the next, 2, 3, 4 days where suddenly a cold glass of water hits you.
You try not to text them?
Yeah, that also happens. And there'll be moments, I'm sure, where Andy Dalton throws a couple picks and it's like, wait a second, we could have the young guy who might turn into something.
Hey, Bryce, you up?
But there's also that moment where it's like, all right, what am I going to do? Where am I going to live? Who's going to get the dog? Like we've got some decisions to make here just to set up the basic structure of a life independent of the relationship that I was. If you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter what else you have on your roster. And the Panthers right now don't have their quarterback of the future. Using Andy Dalton, we talked about this yesterday. You can bring Andy Dalton in to figure out what the rest of the roster is, right? Is your defense bad, or were they just being put in terrible situations by Bryce Young? Well, let's put in Andy Dalton. He'll protect the football, and you'll find out how good your defense is. Are your receivers not getting separation, or was Bryce Young not giving them a chance to make a play? Well, you'll put in Andy Dalton, and you'll find out how good your wide receivers are. But it doesn't matter if you learn, hey, this roster is better than we thought. It doesn't matter if the roster is better than you thought, if you don't have the quarterback position figured out. We've seen it time and time and time again at NFL football across all levels. Good defenses wasted by not very great quarterback play. Good wide receivers wasted by not very good quarterback play. Anyone that's had Garrett Wilson in fantasy the last couple years knows what that's like. The Panthers today better start putting together a plan for the future of the quarterback position, and the plan can't be, well, it's just not Bryce. That's not a plan. That's the starting point. I'm breaking up with my girlfriend. The next day, it's where am I going to live? Oh no, this is in her name. Whatever. Steve Smith thinks Bryce Young might still be a part of the plan. He might not be completely out, and you can hear it straight from Steve Smith Sr. right now.
I don't think Bryce Young is done in Carolina. I think this is the best thing for him because today's world, they talk about, well, if you sit him down, you can never bring him back. Sometimes you got to sit down. Sometimes you have to be not necessarily punished, but take a step back and really look at the greater good.
I agree he needs to step back. I don't see him as a future for the Panthers now. I've been racking my brain. And if you've commented something on Twitter, there's a good chance I asked you to help me figure this out. I've been looking for a quarterback that was drafted highly, didn't play well, got benched to reset their confidence or to watch and learn, to reset, recalibrate, and then became a success story for the team that drafted him. We've seen it happen for other teams. Guy gets benched, changes scenery, goes somewhere else, figures it out. I don't think we've seen it be the same team that drafted him, which would mean Bryce Young is not the dude for the Carolina Panthers. As soon as you benched him, you eliminated that. Dan Orlovsky believes, of ESPN as well, Bryce Young is done with the Carolina Panthers. Here's Dano.
I think Bryce Young is done in Carolina. I really do. I wanted to be disciplined with how I was going to look at Bryce and evaluate him this season because I know it's not a good situation, but there was no improvement. And that's the thing that is shocking, candidly. I missed on Bryce. And you don't make this decision unless, one, you're already good with moving on with him in your mind, or two, you're going to completely lose your locker room. And if you're going to lose your locker room after 2 weeks, it's not just 2 weeks in the regular season of it not going well. This has to be a training camp long experience.
This is square one, square zero for the Carolina Panthers. People talk about what's the hardest thing in sports. Hardest thing in sports. Some people say hitting a baseball, right? Hitting the curveball, hardest thing in sports. Some people say playing the quarterback position. I'm going to add a new contender to that list. Hardest thing in sports is finding a quarterback. There are franchises that have been trying nonstop for decades and have just continuously come up empty.
Chicago.
Maybe they have it with Caleb Williams, maybe they don't. Browns. There's the picture of all the quarterback jerseys laid out of all the starters for the Browns. I mean, you got to like zoom out just to see them all. And they've yet to have really anyone of caliber there. The Bears, what is it? They still never had anyone throw for 4,000 yards.
That's wild.
Ever. They've been around since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Panthers have to find their quarterback. You may say, go sign a veteran. All right, well, first of all, Andy Dalton is too old to build around. He's a month away from being 37. Dave Canales has built around veteran rehabilitation projects, but he rescued, quote-unquote rescued, Geno Smith at age 31. He rescued Baker Mayfield at age 28. Dalton is not the same at age 37. About to be. Turns 37 in about a month. I looked at the top free agents for next offseason, the top available guys. I just said top 2025 quarterback free agents into Google, saw a list. Here's some of the names mentioned. Sam Darnold, hilarious.
Know that guy.
Zach Wilson, Jacoby Brissett, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Mac Jones. That's what you're dealing with.
Eek.
Are you drafting a guy? Because last year I would have said there's options here. And this would have been right at the beginning of us figuring out who Jaden Daniels was. Mm-hmm. So there was still Caleb Williams and Drake May. We didn't know about Bo Nix and Michael Penix flying up draft boards. Right now I'm looking around going, Carson Beck? Shador Sanders?
Cam Ward?
Quinn Ewers? Cam Ward? Doesn't seem like a year I want to be drafting at the top if I need a quarterback. And also for everybody that says, just trade back, get a boatload of picks. You get to the value trading back comes when there's a great player there.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just come from like, hey, the first-round pick goes for 9 first-round picks. The first overall pick, it goes for 9 first-round picks regardless of who's available. You need the generational prospect there.
This ain't Madden where you can just do that.
Yeah, you just say, well, here you go, accept, bada-boom. Dan Morgan, Dave Canales. I'm not saying you have to tell us the plan, but you better darn sure have one. You better have somebody you love. Your scouting department better say, we think we can get this guy in free agency, and he's the one that Dave Canales can turn into a starter, a star. Or this guy in the draft, everybody's sleeping on him. He's great. You better have a plan. Otherwise, you're building a car without an engine. You have the best hubcaps. You have the most polished chrome, the nicest leather interior, every doodad and add-on, the screens, the touch screens, everything on the inside, but you're building a car without an engine. Bryce Young's not the engine. You just told us that. Andy Dalton can't be. He's too old. Who's your engine? It's what the rest of the season, that's what your entire franchise is about until you get that guy.